Whether you're working from home or using your car a lot less these days because most places are closed, global activity has grinded to a halt in an effort to contain the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, during all of this, scientists have been tracking what, if any, improvements are being seen in the air quality around the world. And joining us this morning from Climate Change Connection is Curtis Hall. Curtis, good morning.
Good morning.
Listen, people using their cars obviously a lot less means burning less fossil fuels. Is there any proof so far that air quality is improving and that greenhouse gas emissions are dropping?
Well, there are some satellite photos that have been seen from various places that normally result in a lot of pollution, places like industrial China and large centers in the US and Europe, etc. And they can see a dramatic drop in the amount of pollution coming from those areas just in the matter of days or weeks.
It's incredible to see that in just a short amount of time, the improvement that we're seeing now. Experts are saying the environmental benefit is temporary, that pollution levels, they're obviously going to go back as people get back to their daily routine. But are there things that we should be thinking about now to kind of change our daily lives so that when things go back to normal, we can continue to help the environment?
Yeah. Well, the most important thing that I'm taking away from this crisis is how we are vulnerable. And I think we all need to think about how in the past, one of my biggest challenges working on climate change and climate change solution is trying to get people to understand that there is an emergency and there's something that we need to do. But because everybody's been so comfortable in their daily lives, it's hard to see that there's an emergency. Here we have an example of an emergency, but it's also kind of invisible. But it's something that we need to take seriously and something that we need to take action on. And I really hope that that's the takeaway from this crisis is as we rebuild, that we do it in a way that's going to be truly sustainable.
I want to talk about food for a minute because this pandemic could change how we buy our food in the future. We've seen producers, they've seen a significant drop in sales to restaurants, but you say there's been a big increase to customer-supported agriculture. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, customer-supported agriculture is where customers, you and I, where we contact producers directly and we enter into a contract with them where we get a basket of food every week or every couple of weeks or whatever the arrangement is with the producer, and so you've got complete control over where that food, complete knowledge of where that food comes from. That's customer supported agriculture, CSA. And those producers are producers that normally would sell to restaurants are starting to see a real uptake in that kind of business.
You know, this is not the way we want to see a better environment, but what is it about climate change that for some reason a lot of us, we take it for granted, and it's taken a pandemic for us to see how much of a positive change we can have in the environment in less than a month in some places?
Yeah, it's that invisibility or that idea that it's something in the future or something we don't really have to concern ourselves with. But I think that this pandemic has shown that we are vulnerable, that we are at risk from things that are unexpected. And there's a lot of changes coming with respect to climate change that we can't really specifically anticipate. There's the primary things we know about, floods, droughts, wildfires, that kind of thing. But it's the secondary consequences of climate change that we need to build our resilience to. And that's the food system and disturbances to supply chains and things that we've come to depend upon in the last few decades. We've got to figure out how to become resilient and have more self-reliance. And that's the solution to climate change as much as anything else, is an understanding of doing for ourselves.
Is this maybe a wake-up call to say, when it comes to this pandemic, we're all listening to the COVID-19 scientists to say physical distance and minimize your time outdoors. We're seeing it work in a lot of places. Now, can we shift that to say we should also be listening to the climate scientists as well?
Exactly. You've got it completely right. Those jurisdictions that listen to the scientists earliest are the ones typically that are are coping the best with this particular emergency. And I think that's exactly right. That's the lesson we need to learn, is that scientists that deal in climate and aren't just in it for the fun. They're very serious about their business, and we need to take it seriously as well, because that's the way that we're going to prepare ourselves for the coming future that is inevitable.
Curtis, a lot of great insight, and we appreciate you taking the time for us this morning. Thank you.
Thanks, Rahim.